Hey everyone, welcome back. Well, I'm quite impressed by the current state of the pauper metagame for at least two reasons. Well, first we have Burn as the tier 1 in form of Rakdos Madness or Madness Bird or Rakdos Bird, which is this same deck, and basically is a Rakdos deck which has the same strategy as Mono Red Burn and is relying on Madness as a strategy to play some Lightning Alex, which cycle itself, so they have more card advantage compared to the normal style of Mono Red Burn, and they also have better burn spells and better creatures in form of, in example, Fury Temper and Galvanic Blast, and also Voldaren Epiku and Kitchen Imp. Kitchen Imp basically is better key to level runner, and right now we also have Mono Red Blades as a tier 1 strategy, at last on Magical Line, and that's also because in the most recent set, Double Master 2022, there was the downgrade of Monastery's Whisper. And Monastery's Whisper is good both in Mono Red Prowess and Rakdos Burn. So basically, the current pauper metagame has a lot of aggressive strategies, and at least in the last few weeks in the challenges, the metagame had Burn, Boggles, and Mono Red Prowess as the most played strategies, alongside unexpectedly Mono Blue Furs. From my point of view, seeing Mono Blue Furs in a metagame filled with red aggressive strategies seems kind of weird, I guess. From my point of view, Mono Blue Furs and other furs strategies were always well positioned against Mono Red Burn, but I'm not sure about the matchup against Rakdos Burn, and I'm also not sure about the matchup against Mono Red Prowess, since Mono Red Prowess or Mono Red Blades is a deck that really relies a lot on having a good matchup against decks that doesn't really have a lot of removal spells. And at least on game 1, Mono Blue Furs only have Snap as a way to interact with a Kiln Fiend or a Monastery's Whisper. Well, of course, the deck is Mono Red, and Mono Blue Furs as a Mono Blue deck as Blue Elemental Blast and Hydro Blast, so maybe at least post side the matchup is way better for Mono Blue Furs, and the reason is pretty simple. Mono Red Prowess currently plays only 12 creatures, at least most least. I think that having only 12 creatures in Mono Red Prowess is bad, and I'm trying a Mono Red Blitz list with 16 creatures for two reasons. At least, I want to not die from a single removal spells, and also I think that Underworld Rage Hound is just too bad. Rage Hound basically is the answer to removal based decks, because you just want to force your opponent to waste removals on Underwood Rage Hound, but by itself Underwood Rage Hound is probably too much bad as a creature. First, you are forced to attack each turn, and second, it has truly bad states. I mean, it's just a free 1 creature. When you play it from your hand, when you escape it from your graveyard, it's just a 4/2 creature, which is still lame, especially if you want to pay 4 mana to play it from your graveyard. Deck has only 18 lands, so relying on a 4 mana spell to deal with removal based decks is just bad from my opinion. And I also think that having 16 creature will be eventually better, especially when you consider that you don't want 16 creatures only against other aggressive strategies that are relying on removal spells against you. So you can just, in example, sideboard out your Burning Prophet and bring in interaction in form of, in example, removals. For example, against elves. And most lists right now are cutting Burning Prophet to play Monastery's Whisper. Well, anyway, having 16 or 12 creatures most times doesn't really matter, since this deck is more or less a glass cannon deck relying on a turn 4 kill. But I think that this deck can play well enough against most decks in the current metagame. I think that the worst matchup for mono-red Blitz is mono-red Burn, and I found that Rakdos Burn, okay, is still a bad matchup because they have a lot of removal spells, because the gameplay for Burn against mono-red Blitz is just killing all the creatures and eventually starting bolting you or attacking you with their creature in mid-late game. And beside Mutagenic Road and Postal's Blessing, Blitz doesn't really have a lot of interaction when it comes to trying to protect their creature. And as you already know, probably Burn basically is as a decker having only removal spells in the deck. And then we should also talk about Fairies, because if we take a look at yesterday, Saturday 16 July Pauper Challenge, Mono Blue Fairies was the second most played deck, but if we consider Fairies as a single macro archetype, Fairies was the most played deck in the challenge, and this just confirms that Fairies is still great against red-based glass cannon style deck, because Pauper Burn is more or less a glass cannon deck. Red Prowess doesn't really have a good matchup against interactive decks, at least if they have enough removal spells, interaction, and low converted mana cost removals. And Demon Fairies can play cards like Snuff Out, and Snuff Out seems kind of good against a deck relying on a Boggle that you can target with 1-for-1 removal spells. I think we should also talk about another challenge, because last Sunday Wiz in the Water was able to take the first place in the challenge with Hordes of Pestilence. And I think you can also consider Hordes of Pestilence as a good anti-meta deck. So basically, Hordes of Pestilence, the creature Pestilence deck, I'm not talking about the Pristine Talisman version, which I think is way weaker compared to the mid-range version. I think is good positioning against Boros, Fairies, and probably Mono-Red Prowess, and also Burn. And the reason is pretty simple: black removal spells. Well, when it comes to Fairies, Pestilence is well positioned for two reasons: Korsky Fisher and Pestilence. But when it comes to Mono-Red Blitz, certainly the presence of Chinar's Edict helps a lot, because they can't protect their creatures against the Chinar's Edict. They can protect against Cast Down. They can also be able to protect against Journey to Nowhere or any other removal spells that white or black decks can play. But especially since the converted mana cost of these removal spells is 2 mana, and Mono-Red Blitz seems well positioned against clunky decks because it has a better mana curve and a better mana cost when it comes to their protective spells and their creature spells. But I think maybe it's time to exhume that weight from your the bad cards you kept in your collector. That weight was staple years ago when ETOG was already illegal, and that weight seems to be probably the best removal spells, excluding Chinar's Edict and Snuff Out, to kill Monastery's Whisper and Kill Fiend, because they can protect a creature by just casting another spell and pumping their constitution. So Mutagenic Cloud doesn't work against that weight, and if you have a Monastery's Whisper, you can cast whatever amount of the ladder you want, but at the end of turn the creature will still die. And I think that we can consider also Pestilence probably the best black beast deck if you don't consider Affinity a black beast deck. And if you don't want to play Affinity with a lot of answers to Fairies and red burn spells, probably also Pestilence, thanks to the removal spells and life gain, can be good against both burn and mono red blades. Also, it is probably the best deck against against Burrows Bully, thanks to Pestilence, and probably having Pestilence alongside the flying creatures and Guard of the Kill Pact would be good enough to interact well with against first. This list is kind of weird from my point of view because I think that Keystone is weird, doesn't really fit the current metagame, but it's still good as a way to recur Pestilence. So you basically play 6 copy of Pestilence in your main deck, and it's kind of weird to not have Torn of the Black Rose in the main deck, but since this list isn't running Radiant Fontaine or Kibira's Crossroads, they need to play cards like Lone Missionary to get back some life, because Pestilence also deals damage to you. And we talked about an Orsive deck, so why not talk about Basilisk Gate and the decks that are currently running the new Gate package from Baldur's Gate? Because apparently we have the Commander Legend Baldur's Gate more available on Magic Online. Well, if you exclude the initiative cards and Kenku Artificer, so I remind you to complain on Wizard of the Coast and Daybreak Current on Twitter, because their only way to add those cards on Magic Online is just complaining to the big company, the big corporation. And as I already said, Basilisk Gate alongside the other gates seems to be a proper win condition in basically all the mid-range piles that we are able to play on Magic Online. An example, we have also Aristocrats deck with Carter Aristocrats, Basilisk Gate and the other gates, and also Deadly Dispute. So basically this deck is kind of mid-range Aristocrats with Basilisk Gate comboing off with Carter Aristocrats. So you pump your Carter Aristocrats with Basilisk Gate, and then you give it protection from your opponent creatures and attack for lethal. So basically is pretty similar to Pioneer Aristocrats strategies, because it has a lot of card vintage interaction and try to combo off with a combo requiring a lot of cards or dealing cheap damage turn by turn. An example, Rakdos Sacrifice or Giant Sacrifice from Pioneer indeed. And then we also have a Burroughs synthesizer list that got a trophy on Magical Line, which is relying on Basilisk Gate. I think you don't really need to play Secret Cat alongside Basilisk Gate, but anyway, Basilisk Gate is still great because you can give you can deal a lot of damage with your evasive creature, or just pump your Trouble Inspector to just have better attackers. The sad part about Basilisk Gate is that it can pump your creature only as a sorcery spell, but the cool part is that it gives +X and not +X+0 as initially have thought. So basically, Basilisk Gate is a free addition to a lot of decks. I think that is pretty easy to see it coming from in a lot of decks, since unless you play Cleansing Wildfire and Artifact Lands, or Artifact Lands to cast affinity creatures, your everyday mid-range deck already plays tapped lands. In example, there's Bully or Synthesizer, John midrange maybe, also Pestilence. So I think I also gonna try these new gates in some weird shadow, just trying to to get a better combat step, especially since mid-range creatures often are just 2x creatures. I think that unless you want to play something like Oars of Pestilence, as I already said, Affinity is still a tier 1 strategy. The deck still is showing off in challenges, and probably is not placing a lot of results because we have a lot of red aggressive strategies, and the current Grixis Affinity doesn't really play a lot of interaction against red based decks. But if you maybe want to try out something like Weather the Storm in your sideboard, I think that also you have enough mana fixing, and you also can run a lot of interaction, especially in form of Metallic Rebuke and counterspell. So basically Affinity moved from Duress as a way to interact with opponents' strategies to Metallic Rebuke and counterspell, which are better in my opinion. And I also think that basically Affinity right now is something like the best mid-range deck in the format. You just need to have at least for this week or the next few weeks interaction against those red strategies, and also against fairies. Example, Arrows of Idar or Break Weapon, or also Makeshift Donations. And when it comes to Blitz strategies, you are already running Idolblast and Chinner Seed. Again, that are truly good against a mono-red Voltron deck. So guys, I think we talked about everything for today. Thank you for watching this video. I will not be able to stream on Twitch for the next few weeks. So I will probably not be able to upload not many videos on my YouTube channel, so be patient. I mean, I'll try eventually to upload new videos, maybe record something in English. An example, Mono-Red Prowess, I want to upload an English league with it, since I already recorded on Twitch a league with Mono-Red Prowess. We'll see. I hope to get enough time, but for now, have a good time and see you later.